So good morning, everybody. Ooh. Miracles happen every day. And how lovely it is to have a supportive community. It says, don't worry, don't arrive here too frazzled. Rail replacement. A little bit later than I usually expect. So for me, it's lovely to be here again. I greatly enjoy this beautiful temple in the middle of Brighton. So our Unitarian community. My name is Safar. I'm a One Spirit interfaith minister. For me, the One Spirit is what really resonates for me. It's finding that anywhere and everywhere. There's no greater, there's no lesser, there's no right, there's no wrong, except to respect each one. So today our title for our service, which is usually a dialogue with myself anyway, is to find the oneness within the many unexpected communities. So a lot of the service today, I'm quoting from Matthew Fox, who I absolutely admire. Feel he has great wisdom, and he has various books, one of which is One River, Many Wells. So I won't keep repeating that, but usually I'm quoting from that book, which I would really recommend. It's very lovely and very ample. So let's light our chalice today. I have a few words, so I'll light it first, but my intention is to light to the highest source of light, which simply means for each one of us, to the laws of harmony, for the best for every one of us, however different and varied that may be. So join with me, heart, spirit, and matter. I used to think the matter didn't matter, but I've discovered over the many years that it certainly does matter. Each one's matter. So the quote is, only a refusal to hate or kill can put an end to the chain of violence in the world and lead us to a community where mankind may live together without fear. Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls, as well as a quantitative change in our lives. So let's sing our first hymn today, which is 233, all in the green books. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for your beautiful piano playing. So community is another word for creation. You know, I love to prepare a service, even though I get terribly nervous, but it expands my own possibilities of checking things out. So community is another word for creation. If all creation is made up of light, then all community is in some way the gathering of light, the relationship of light beings to each other. Just to read that is like a blessing. I have to excuse my emotional body, as I usually do, because I never know when it's going to manifest itself. So long have I ceased to block it, because it wasn't doing me any good. I hear the Dalai Lama quite a lot on YouTube. He's becoming more and more present, and he talks about peaceful mind, feelings, emotion brings peaceful children. So if children are always living through wars and bombings, what kind of adulthood are they going to grow into? So, quote from the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu sacred book, as the Christian sacred Bible. Although, so it's like they're addressing God, the Godhead, the Creator. Although you are one, you spread throughout the skies and the planets and all space between. And is this really not what the biblical writer is also saying when she declares, the Spirit of the Lord fills the whole universe? I think at times, and I tell myself, I don't need to get tied up with the wording. And if we can go beyond the wording, because so many of these sacred writings have been written and translated I don't know how many times, and often they lose some essence of their original meaning. And then the following is a rabbinic teaching and goes as follows. Creation is the extension of God, whatever word you want to put there. Creation is God encountered in time and space. Creation is the infinite garb of the finite. To attend creation is to attend God. And we could all think, well, what's that got to do with me anyway? But I'm wondrous to hear and see how many people love gardens and gardenings and plant and beautiful parks that we have that surrounds us. For me, this is the garb. This is the physicality that we're lucky enough in life to see. I wasn't too happy to be in life when I was a rebellious teenager for many reasons. And I heard my sister saying yesterday, because she's been another rebel, getting older is quite a privilege. I said, okay, depending how. Depending on our thought form, a lot of it, isn't it? Another picture of creation emerges from Psalm 33. I was very much aided by Matthew Fox, by the way. By the word of Yahweh, so another word for God which may be less offensive for many. By the word of Yahweh, the heavens were made, their whole array by the breath of her mouth. She collects the ocean waters as though in a wineskin. She stores the deeps in cellars. Let the whole world quake with Yahweh. Let all who live on earth revere him or her. He, she spoke, and it was created. He, she commanded, and there it stood. Extraordinary to think, isn't it? The breath that breathes with us, for us, through us, without which we know that our physicality, we have to say goodbye, don't we? At some point. So continuing, I don't want this to be just an intellectual happening, you know. I was seeing not that long ago on another YouTube, they're wonderful, these YouTubes sometimes. It was showing in 3D and in transparent form through the womb the manifesting and arrival of baby attached to this cord. And it was like seeing some galactic arriving, which is extraordinary. And then we forget so much. When once we're here in this physicality, we tend to forget how we got here, why we arrived, what plan we might have had, because there's also the thought that we are all architects of our own life plan. And we might think, why on earth would I have planned such a challenging life, to say the least? And of course, in my own searchings, which began through rebelliousness, and gradually, as I found different answers, that rebelliousness, fear and fire and anger coming out of me began to be quelled somewhat with different teachings to be found. And then the thought that then maybe I'm a disciple on this earth, maybe I'm a student, maybe we're all working towards a master degree of bringing spirit into matter. And of course, I know these are my words, but translate them. Let's translate them into your own terminology. So another quote here from the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu scriptures. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his, she's, her, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he, she has ears everywhere. In this way, the supersoul exists, pervading everything. And then it's as if that Godhead is speaking. I enter into each planet, and by my energy, they stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. It is understood that all planets are floating in the air only by the energy of the Lord, Lordess, who enters into every atom, every planet, and every living being. So, of course, including all creatures, great and small, plants, animals. And we tend as human beings to divide ourselves and separate ourselves from nature, but actually we are one with nature. We are part of that amazing creation, are we not? And in childhood, my mother became a Catholic when I was a very small child, and I was taken into a very scary ambience where they'd say, and God knows everything that you're going to be doing. So, of course, that created more rebelliousness in me, and I thought, well, God thinks I'm going to be doing this. Well, I'm not. I'm going to be doing this other, in my childhood interpretation of these things. So when we read that Godhead is in every single manifestation of life, in every planet, in every moon, and when they say without the moon, we wouldn't have life on Earth. There wouldn't be tides, there wouldn't be rhythm, there wouldn't be that gravity which we're told about. There wouldn't be life. So it's quite extraordinary. I look at the the night sky, when I lie down, I've got a great window behind my head, and I look and it's an extraordinary creation that we live in. And then we see what we see in the world, which can be quite disturbing, to say the least, through humankind and, I would say, lack of our real consciousness. Shall we sing our second hymn, which is 226? I think one day I'd like to give a service based on some of these lovely hymns and lovely words. So this is a quote from a Hindu yogic scholar, which became quite popular in the Western areas. Iyengar, we all have heard of Iyengar yoga, no doubt. And he comments that all creation is Brahman. The Vedas reveal that creation is not a mechanical construction. It is a supreme spiritual act revealing divine splendor. I can't remember, some time ago I was reading, it was either with Krishna, I think it was Krishna, you can correct me if I'm wrong when we have tea and coffee, but it was when he opened his mouth, within the whole creation could be seen. So when in that previous quote it said, she breathed and creation appeared. She spoke and creation manifest. These things, for me, have to go beyond our intellectual understanding. I can't get it, but I can see and I can feel. And this is often where I encourage greatly that we listen to our feeling body, to our intuition, because that beauty, that divine splendor resides within each and every one of us. We are not separate from that. And yet that can be one of the hardest things to digest. It's what have we learned? What have we been programmed with? They say when a child reaches 7 years old, they've reached the age of reason. In my very early days of life, I looked after babies and children, first in an orphanage and then in a hospital. And how beautifully innocent. We've all been that. Somehow they can see beyond. Somehow they see that splendor, and somehow you see them smiling sometimes, and you think, I wonder what they're looking at. I wonder what they're seeing. And we've been there too. And for me, this attending our communities is really about awakening from our inner levels. And as much as we've probably all known suffering in our life, we can all have known joy. We can all have looked at a wonderful sunset, glorious sun shining on the surface of the seas. You know, the other day, after all, in Hastings, there was a great hailstorms and thunder. It was magnificent, the expression of divine splendor. And then I looked out my living room window about between 5 and 6, and I saw this glorious rainbow. It was stretching from one end of the sky to the other. I couldn't see the beginning and I couldn't see the end. But for me, part of my recovering consciousness is about seeing these beauties, seeing these extraordinariness, seeing the details of life and registering it. For me, it's about an inner reconstruction to help us overcome, because sometimes pain can feel unbearable, unsupportable. But haven't any of us or some of us also known the ecstasy which of one form or another that can equally seem unbearable? It can be too much. Why is that divinity hidden from our immediate location? Because we're in physical form. And somehow that form needs some kind of protection. I'm quoting again from Matthew Fox, and I believe these are his own words, and he quotes from as well. Today's science is rediscovering the immensity of the awe and wonder built into the cosmic community. David Brower, who I believe is an astrophysicist, I'm not sure, but I believe, marvels at the wildness within all human beings in how our eyes operate with 120 million rods and cones that allow us to see creation as well as the pages of a book in 3D. 120 million cones and rods. The human ear appears almost too complicated to work. And the human body carries out 100,000 different chemical reactions, all without our having to think about it. Surely this is part of that divine splendor working within us, moment to moment, moment to moment. So if you've been taught, as I was as a small child, that God was just a punishing God and there to be watching what foot you might put wrong, I would suggest that needs to be worked on to transform into seeing this wonderful splendor within ourselves. And I'm not talking about the ego, I'm just talking about breath. Let's breathe with the breath. Where does that come from? Where does the wind come from, you know? So continuing the quote, so he's talking about the human wildness, and then he says, but we are ridding the earth of its many miracles of wildness. It's not making us happy or healthy. It is making us miserable and despairing, killing trees, habitat, animals, and separating ourselves from nature. It's making us all a bit crazy. We need to restore the earth because we need to save the wild in order to save ourselves. You know, we know that David Attenborough has recently reached his 100th year. What a magnificent example to us all he is For me, he's lived his love and passion, and this is how he is. He's still a powerful figure to watch and to hear, and he's been long talking about to be observant of our wild, wonderful creatures, and also how wonderful it is to see many human beings working towards being with these wonderfully wild creatures and trees and plants. We are in that process. And often on the news, we only hear bad news and what place has been bombed and how many deaths. And it can be very despairing to keep hearing all of that. And also to find that balance, we certainly need to be infilling ourselves with much joy and much beauty that is happening around us at all times as well. And of course, this conversation with myself continues. I'm just sharing it with everybody. And then this David Brower continues, and he says, the act of burning books with the destroying of earth is the same as destroying the wild. So we have seen when the Nazis came into power, one of the first things was to burn all books, and it was a crime to have a book, to read a book. You could have been taken into prison or killed. I've got a film called The Book Thief. You know, why would power, and we go way back in history, knowing that scrolls have been burnt, knowledge has been burnt. Why? Because that gives human beings information. It takes away our ignorance. It helps us to restore our connection, direct connection with that divinity, with that divine splendor. And that's for all of us. None are greater and none are lesser. We all have this divinity within, all of us. It doesn't matter what qualification we have or don't have, it doesn't matter. It's to just recognize, but it's no good somebody else recognizing that in me. If somebody says whatever to me, if I haven't linked to that in me, then I'm not going to believe anyway. So this is the first port of call inside, the joining of heart, soul. So, repeating Brower, the act of burning books with the destroying of earth, which contains our history, our knowledge, our wisdom. Why do we harm it so? We are genetic inheritors of a code of a long and beautiful history, and we all possess that fragment of material from the first bit of history in life, all of us. You say, but I can't remember. Well, if we could remember everything, I think it would be a bit too much anyway. Because nowadays, the emphasis is put on the power of now, of course. But neither is it to deny it. Let's hold it. We all possess a little fragment of the first bit of life on earth. Consequently, everything that is alive is related, and a microscopic part of us all is 3.5 billion years old. Later, I have another quote that's talking about it being 14 or 15 billion years old, so I can't even understand what 1 billion is. So, how to know? Intrinsic to creation is creativity. Only recently has science learned how thoroughly occupied the universe is in giving birth. We know that the Milky Way gives birth to several stars every year. I would say maybe several hundred, maybe several thousand, I don't know. But it's giving birth anyway. One is reminded of Meister Eckhart's inquiry. I love these people because to me they seem like Hafiz, like children, very innocent in their inquiry. So this was Meister Eckhart's inquiry. He said, well, what does God do all day? All day long. And then it's as if he answers himself and he says, God lies on a maternity bed giving birth. We have to enter with humor too, don't we? Humor can be so wonderful to help us through this extraordinary experience. The universe is biased in favor of birthing and generativity. It seems sometimes that the humankind is biased to the reverse of that. So it has to work pretty hard. But we'll keep on thinking of those humans that are working greatly to help reconstruct. So I think it's time to have a quiet time. So we have a quietness. Let's digest a little bit of this. If you're happy to close your eyes, please do. If you prefer to, it's just to give each person their own privacy, their own space. Let's connect to the breath, a little bit of, breathing in and feeling. You can breathe into your heart center. Loosen your shoulders, just relax as much as possible. And I'm telling myself because I was getting a bit nervy on the late train. So breathe, find your rhythm of breath. Think about that wonderful sunset, the wonderful park over the road, the trees, the plants, the dogs that are jumping up and down, and people that are lying on the grass. Remember your times of beauty, of quiet, of well-being. I'm going to be quiet myself for just a few minutes, and then Kathy will bring us back in with a little bit of music. So enjoy a moment with yourself. Thank you, Kathy. I've left magenta-coloured pouches that are going to be passed around the church, and it's really asking for your generosity if you have any change with you. The church very much depends on contributions from people that come here. So remember, there's no obligation, but they're just passed around and they're put towards the best of whatever's required for this community to continue. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for your generous contributions. We bless and thank and receive. So let us sing our third hymn today, 235, Melody of Love. Thank you. So we have this inner community, which is all our multitude of cells, this inner amazing construction. And when they talk about the construction of this planet and the galaxies and so on as being a construction of divine splendor, so is this inner construction. And when we have toil, when we have stress, when we have tough times, this body has been greatly accidented in its time. It's not about ignoring, it's not about denying, it's not about pretending, oh, I'm perfect and there's nothing. It's about an inner dialogue. It's about conversing, communing internally, which is really important. And if I've mistreated myself and I'm in a road to recovering whatever, it's really great to have dialogue, because what I've noticed in my life anyway is in different communities that I may have lived in, worked in, when there's a lack of communication, when there is misunderstanding, all havoc is reached. And I believe, of course, I can't talk about wars, but why do wars happen? We can have tiny wars and we can have great big wars. But for me, it's the dialogue, it's the ability to communicate, even though it may be incredibly challenging to do so. You know, I've worked with this possibility, but it must begin inside. Talk to yourself, don't mistreat yourself. Today I was waylaid because of bus replacements, etc. So I could have arrived as a real nervous wreck, and they said to me, don't arrive as a nervous wreck, will you? So it's breathing, and it was talking to myself, and so far what is. And we never know what's going to happen anyway in the trajectory of our arriving or leaving or whatever. And of course, it's the next quote I'm going to bring in here is from this person called Thich Nhat Hanh, who I have learned to greatly admire and honor. He was a Zen master. He died back in 2022. He was Vietnamese, grew up in that dreadful 10-year war where he saw many of his community, became a young Buddhist monk in his teen years, and he began to work very solidly and noisily, I suppose, for peace. And he wrote books, and he had a vast following of other Buddhist nuns and monks. And eventually he was exiled from Vietnam because of his work for peace. Interesting, isn't it? And eventually he found some land in France, Bordeaux, where there is still a very working community of his trainee Buddhist nuns and monks. I think it might be worth visiting. But he manifested peace. You can check him out on YouTube. And he doesn't moralize. He's not there pointing a finger. He's had to do a lot of transforming, of course. And he talks about the interbeing of all. And he even challenged Shakespeare and said, you know, Shakespeare says to be or not to be, and Thich Nhat Hanh says to interbe or not to interbe. So Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us what it is we are looking at when we look deeply at just one flower. When we look at the heart of a flower, we see clouds, sunshine, minerals, time, the earth, and everything else of the cosmos in it. Without clouds, there could be no rain, and there would be no flower. Without time, the flower could not bloom. In fact, the flower is made entirely of non-flower elements. It has no independent, individual existence. Of course, we are the same way. Each of us carries a 15 billion year existence. Self-knowledge is a journey that takes a lifetime, and I would add a few S's to that, lifetimes. After all, every hydrogen atom in our body has been in existence for 14 billion years. Imagine how many stories they have to tell us. So when we have intuition, when we think we know something, let's not deny it. Let's think, why am I thinking that? I've never been so. Let's think about it. Let's stop denying ourselves. We are all magical from that divine splendor. Long I've been concerned that people might think that I'm mad or crazy, and then little by little it's like, well, maybe. But as long as I can respect others, well. Every day we encounter the cosmos, It is our bodies, our food, our air, our everything. In Eastern Asia, we speak of the body as a mini cosmos. The cosmos is our home, and we can touch it by being aware of our body. Everything is made up of all other things. One thing contains the whole cosmos. Behind and within the depth of the phenomenal world, I love this phrase, I'm going to repeat it. Behind and within the depth of the phenomenal world lurks the divine presence. It's kind of hidden, veiled, lurks the divine presence. Like Christian mysticism that sees every being as another Christ. I heard Richard Rohr once, who's a great theologian and mystic and etc., saying Christ is not the surname of Jesus. He talks a lot, and he's a priest, he talks a lot about the cosmic Christ, that Christ essence which is in all and every part of creation. It doesn't belong to any one being, and in that, could we dare say, it also is part of us. As indeed Thich Nhat Hanh recognizes all beings, animals, plants, mineral world, are potential Buddhas. We all have that within. And when you see the Buddhist people bowing to the Buddha, they're bowing to the Buddha within also. It's within and without. It can't be without being within. And for me, that's really important, that I don't give my power away to somebody who I think is a great master, a great teacher. Yes, I can respect. Yes, I can listen. Yes, I'm very happy to learn and to study. But don't give your power away to somebody else, because you have your own divinity within. And it's an interesting balance to find, isn't it? So this is our community and our communities. When I first came back to this country back in the mid-90s, more or less, I'd been away for about 20 odd years in Mexico, where I began to think I was Mexican and spoke Spanish better than English and got confused with the two languages. Of course, I've been educated since I remembered English, of course. But I was taken to a beautiful spiritual school of light, color, and sound. They were working deeply with the healing process of light, color, and sound. The director there was Peter Goldman, osteopath, but his main teachings were of light, of color, and of sound. So I studied under him for years and still do. He still is working, interestingly. So I'm quoting from another talk of his. There is no death. Indeed, that's what Thich Nhat Hanh says. He's also known as Thai, which means master, teacher. There is no death. There is no birth. And you can say, well, that's crazy. We've all been born, and we all die. But of course, it's what is beyond that. And this is where I encourage myself to see beyond. It's the breath. We don't know what happens when we die, except from the wonderful testimonies which now exist in many books of people who have died or had near-death experiences. Anita Morjani is somebody I would very much recommend. She had a 4th-degree lymphatic cancer, was in coma in a hospital in Hong Kong, and her family thought she was going to be dying any moment. And she speaks in her book of Dying to Be Me, she speaks about her having left her body during I don't know what period of time, but when she saw and understood many things. And her book is brilliant because she's very clear, and she's become an international speaker. And there are many others. So it's no death, no birth, it's something beyond, something beyond. And there are many people whose loved ones have died and they still feel there is this possibility of communicating on some level, in some way. So this quote, there is no death, life is a spiritual initiation, a heart-soul resonance. Consciousness united within the network of our belonging to vibration of stars, sun, and moon. This teacher, Peter, he used to say, and still does, we are made of stardust. When I first heard that, I thought, oh, wow, really? Because we're, in the Christian teaching, it was, remember, man, that thou art dust, and into dust thou shalt return. But what was forgotten there was stardust. We're made of stardust, and we are all one. So it's always go into your heart, go into your intuition, be that child that knows how to travel without the intellectual barrier. The awakening of our belonging, and that's really important, because I never felt I belonged. I always felt like I'd been exiled or, and this is where we must belong, here. If I'm longing to be like somebody else, if I'm trying to make myself look 100 years younger than I am, or if I'm not accepting this, how am I going to begin to belong? So it's belonging here first. And then wherever I am, I can belong because I'm belonging here. And then I can share. So the awakening of our belonging to all different levels of being. And here he's talking about the elements of angels of water, angels of mountain, angels, beings who embody the laws that maintain seasons and cycles, world of intelligent beings whose evolution is maintained with and by our universe, which is intelligent, subtle angels, devas, and elemental beings, and the extraordinary forces of Angel Michael, Gabriel, enter through the goodwill of those who care. It's like when you say, I surrender. What do we surrender to? I surrender to love. I surrender to beauty. I surrender to what is beyond. The intellect is wonderful. The intellect is brilliant, but it needs to be joined to the mystical, magical origin of our creation. So we talk about this whole life, this whole cosmic explosion as being an intelligent being. And this teacher, Ostibas, who's had a very straight training, talking about the angelic forces and the angelic beings behind everything, behind the air, behind the fire, behind the water, behind the earth. There's a beyond, which is there when we open. It's like, okay, can I trust enough? Do I not think I'm going to be blown to pieces in opening? So many things to question about ourselves. Nature reflects the state of mankind, and the world reflects the state of asking of each and every species in its own state of response to the living moment. One with always, all times, and every year, everywhere, but with a simplicity of here and now. So this is, I can only be in this present moment. And for me, that is becoming something that I constantly am saying, Safar, remember, be here. Because when we talk about, I don't remember putting the kettle on, I don't remember switching, where was I when I put the kettle on? Where was I when I turned the light on? We're worrying about the past or about the future. The past I can't change. Yes, I can help myself to understand the past. And in the present, I can sow beautiful seeds of hope for my future and for everybody's future. But if I'm distracted, it's when I stop remembering of being here and now. It's quite a training. And be gentle with yourself, because I've been ever so good at beating myself up in the past. It's like, be gentle. It's okay. It's okay. Step by step. And this is Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And walking, so it's the mindfulness of being present, which can be a beautiful, relaxed state. It's not about being tense, on the contrary. I want to share with you just a final sharing before we have our final hymn. I was fairly recently in Mexico, just before December. I was there for a couple of months, where I still have beloved communities there. I share deeply with the Mexican people. We're working with personal growth and awakening and freeing out our pain of our soul and so on. So it's been a very deep connection for me over those many years. And I was invited to participate in a ceremony of cacao, which has become also popular over in this land too, hasn't it? And it was an all-night ceremony. There was a beautiful fire, which was, out in the open air, and there were about 60, 70 people. And you think, oh my God, how can I be with that community of people all that time? But everybody was so respectful. It was as if I was just there, and there were others, but there was such respect. And within that, I sat in front of that fire most of the night. And because we were out in the open, I could see the stars in the sky, and I could just feel the oneness. Because when we say there is a oneness, within our own body, there we have this fascia, which has become recognized as being very important, that holds our body together, our organs together, etc., etc. And my imagination allows me to go to see the fascia around the cosmic body that holds the stars, that holds the planets, that holds the galaxies. And science says they don't understand what dark matter is, but they do acknowledge it. Maybe it's that maternity bed of eternal procreation, We don't know. That mysterious creator that's lurking behind goodness knows what. So within that time, it was a very long period of time, but it felt I could just really relax and see and feel and watch the embers of the fire and somebody attending the fire with such care, sacred fire, sacred water that we drink, the sacredness of presence, the sacredness of each being. It doesn't matter what creed, what race, what color, it has no matter. We are all part of this extraordinary creation. Really, really. I see that yes, and I say yes, and it's a passion of mine. And let us see beyond, and let us see beyond. We all have that sacred heart, that sacred belonging, all of us, all of us. Thich Nhat Hanh he loved drinking tea. He was a Zen master, and he used to drink his tea and hold it in two hands, and he was saying, and I see the cloud in my tea. And then he'd pause and he'd say, and the cloud is also in your coffee, It wasn't just in the tea, it was in everything. So we have to apply humor as well. Let's sing our final hymn, Breath of God, 46. Thank you. And I just want to pick up on two things in there. Live with thee the perfect life. I can be perfectly crazy. I can stand on my head. I can do acrobats, and I'm thinking of children. It's the perfect is the moment. It's the spontaneity of now. It's not a preconceived regimented, perfect. It's the beauty of spontaneity. And to will thy will that comes in that beautiful breath of God, I love it. To will thy will. When I was such a rebel, I deviated many, many, many times. But of course, it's all about learning. But to will thy will, for me and my understanding now, is to will that divinity within me, that soul, that spirit, that architect. We're all architects of our life, all of us. We've designed our life for whatever we've come here to understand. But let it be with love, with inner love, and with hope. See the seed that is there and receives the food of the earth, the light of the sun and the stars. Be that seed. Sow your seeds. And if there are seeds within you think, well, that's not going to be very good for me, is it? So we learn, why have I got this seed? Let me help to transform this. Let me help to understand why it's there. So that perfection is about your inner dialogue and understanding and loving and caring as you would love and care for your greatest, bestest child, friend, mother, lover, whatever. Remember that. It's tender. I love that TLC, that tender, loving care. So I would like us all to join our hearts together. In a few moments, we're going to send that light. For me, it's sending the light of that candle to wherever any one of us choose. I might want to send it somewhere, and each one may have a very, very individual. So energy follows thought. Energy follows thought. So wherever you feel, wherever you think, and it's for the highest good, and it can be to yourself, it can be to your family, to your beloved ones, wherever. And I want to give a Celtic blessing for the sending of that. And when we've completed that, we will have our lovely Kathy, who's going to play a final piece of music for us before we go and have our teas and coffees and whatever else we might see. So the Celtic spirit through the ages. Oh, thank you. The Celtic spirit through the ages evolving was one of trust. I arise today through the strength of heaven, light of sun, radiance of the moon, splendor of fire, speed of lightning, softness of wind, depth of sea, stability of earth, firmness of rock, through the strength of the divine, of heaven, of the beloved, whatever your words would be there. So let's send this light together. We can receive the smoke. And thank you, Kathy. Did you have some notices, Jen? Oh, Fanny.
Thank you, Safar, for your efforts in getting here and your energy that you bring and all the work that went into that service. Thank you. And thank you, Kathy, for the music, and Stuart for setting up, and Jeanette's just gone to make the tea. Just some mundane stuff, really. I'm sorry about this after such a uplifting service. The coffee rota, really dull. And anyway, but it's important, isn't it? We like the tea and coffee, and it's a great social thing. So I've put the rota over there. There are a couple of gaps, and if anybody would like to sign up, please do. And if you'd like to, but you haven't done it before, just speak to me and I'll tell you a bit more about it. Later today at 5, there will be a contemplative circle, which is very peaceful. And if you want a quiet space, I suggest you come along. Next Sunday, the service will be led by our minister, Jennifer. And there's going to be an exhibition the following week after that. So there'll be loads of lovely artwork around the church for you to have a look at then and for the rest of the week. On Wednesday, the church will be open from 12:30 till 2 for some gentle piano music, followed by quiet reflection. And on Friday, the lunchtime concert is from 12:30 to 1:15 with refreshments in the hall from 12. And performing will be Anglo-American duo Timothy Schwartz on violin and Jane Beament on piano. The singing for the solstice on the 21st of June will be happening again, with some rehearsals scheduled to learn the song. And if you fancy joining in, please see Lucy, who's at the back with her hand up. And there's a little poster here, which I'll put over there, and it's got the rehearsal dates on it so that you can have a look and see if you can come to any of that. If you wanted to make a payment towards the church and you didn't have cash, there's a card reader over there. And if anybody's feeling new or lost or a bit uncomfortable here, come and see me afterwards and I'll try and help you over your feelings of lostness and discomfort. I'm sure you haven't got any. The tea will be served in a minute. I think that's it. Yes. I think you're going to say not 100 to feel more uncomfortable.